The Divine Encounter. When Knight d'Arsonval, a noble lord in France, left his medieval home for the first time with his armor shining in the sun, he was going to Italy to solve an urgent political question. An eminent Christian, he brought with him a central proposition: to serve the Lord faithfully in order to find him. Not very far from his doorstep, he saw unexpectedly a beggar full of open sores stretch out his gaunt and pleading hands. Who would be such an ill-fated person aimlessly walking? d'Arsonval was much too worried about his very important mission, and without even a glance at the beggar, he threw his stuffed coin bag at him. The noble knight returned to his home, and later on, when he became less fortunate in his business, left his house once more. He was going to Spain in a mission to friends, for whom he had great fondness. At the same place, the unfortunate beggar sat, with pleading arms. The nobleman, intrigued, looked in his large travel bag and removed from it a small diamond and threw it to the unhappy walker, who appeared to devour him with his eyes. Not long after, the nobleman, less happy with his finances, had to travel to England, where he intended to solve several domestic problems. There he was surprised by the dejected leper, with outstretched arms yet again. The knight rips a prized gem from his hat, and full of pride throws it to the known pilgrim. After a couple of months, the medieval lord was going in the direction of a distant port to request a precious loan destined to balance out his personal finances, which were at risk of collapsing. At the same site, with exact precision, he was intercepted by the beggar, whose wounded hands pleaded anxiously towards him. d'Arsonval, who was extremely dedicated to charity, did not hesitate. He takes off his delicate cape and, fearful of any contact, throws it to the beggar. 1 year later, pressed by the questions of immediate concern, he goes to Paris to invoke the help of authorities there. And without any change, he is faced by the same Lazar with a painful face, who repeats the old query. The noble lord throws at him a valuable hat without even altering the gallop of his horse. Days go by, and the noble lord, in an act of faith, leaves his respectful residence with a festive escort. He will represent them at the expedition of Godofredo of Bouillon, in the crusade that intended to free the Holy Lands. At the same angle in the road, he was awaited by the beggar, who repeated his solicitation with a sad voice. The illustrious traveler gives to him then rich provisions without offering any personal attention. In Palestine, d'Arsonval fought valiantly, falling wounded among the adversaries. Tortured, feeble, and separated from his fellow countrymen for many years, he suffered misery and vexation, attacks and humiliations, until one day, as though he were a ghost, he returns to his home, where no one recognized him. With the false news of his death, his wife rushed to substitute him with a new head of the house, and his sons, angry, released aggressive dogs which lacerated him cruelly, without any commiseration for the tears that ran from his semi-dead eyes. Looking for old friendships, he instead suffered repugnance and sarcasm. Seen now as a madman, the ex-nobleman in the dark of night moved away defiantly with an uneasy walk. Where to? The world was too small to bear his pain. He moved painfully until he saw the beggar. He remembered his past glory and turned to himself, as though searching for something to give. He looked at the unlucky man for the first time and met his anguished gaze. He felt that the man, sick and alone, was his brother. He opened his arms and walked towards him, touched by sympathy, as though he wanted to give him the heat from his own blood. It was then, embraced by the friend he considered to be a leper, that he heard these sublime words: "d'Arsonval, come to me. I am Jesus, your friend." He who seeks me in the service towards his brothers finds me sooner or later. While you looked for me in the distance, I waited for you so closely. I thank you for the gold, the gems, the cape, the hat, and the bread that you gave me. But for many years, I stretched out my arms to you, awaiting your own heart. The old knight did not see anything else but an enormous path of light between the earth and the sky. The next day, when the farmers returned to work in the fields under the sunshine of the new dawn, they found in the dewed path a cadaver. D'Arsonval had died.